And we're live. Hey guys, it's Dennis here, and today I have a very special guest, and we do an English interview, an English discussion, however you want to call it, with Ben Jones, the CEO and CTO of Bitwala. And not only the CEO and CTO, he just told me he's the busiest person as well. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. To anyone who would prefer to speak German, I'm very sorry. Also mein Deutsch ist sehr, sehr schlecht. Also wir versuchen mal auf English, and then yeah, you guys have to forgive me. It's great to be on this show. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Dennis.
So how was the last couple of weeks? How have they been in this crazy times? Have there been many changes in the last couple of weeks, months?
I mean, yeah, last couple of weeks actually feels like normal, but we've been in this mode for quite some time. In fact, I was at the FCC conference in Paris in February, where I was speaking, and then I got back to Berlin, and then my colleague Christoph showed me a tweet, and he said, "Hey, look, this guy at the conference, he got corona." And then I looked at the tweet and I was like, "Oh fuck!" And I had spoken to this guy for like 20 minutes, like a meter away. So then me and my friend who were at the conference, we had to go get tested in Berlin, and we stood in line for like a whole day near Tempelhof. It was like, I think like a 6-7 hour procedure to get tested. Everything was fine in the end. But Bitwala actually started with the corona thing way earlier than most companies. And to be honest, it's going great. Like we kind of like it, like especially my developers who love not being disturbed in the office. They're really happy, and also Bitwala online banking, we kind of benefit as being in this segment, and we see the volatility in the markets. People hear about Bitcoin more, plus halving. So it's been a good few months for us.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. You know, the Corona crash, how you want to call it, you know, it was massive. Well, everything tanked really, and we're going to talk about that a little later. But first, let's introduce yourself so people know who you are, how you came into the cryptocurrency space, how you became the founder, came up with the idea for Bitwala, and basically a little bit about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ben. I grew up in Bristol, where I happen to be right now. I'm back for my parents' birthdays, but I've been living in Berlin for the last 8 years. So I studied philosophy and economics at London School of Economics. Afterwards, I traveled in South America for a while, kind of became a hippie, but had come from this almost banking background at my university. And the middle ground was startups. I came to Berlin just for some random opportunity and just got absolutely hooked. If you haven't worked in a startup before, I think the most attractive thing about it is that really you can take on as much ownership as you want, right? You're like this young person, you're ambitious, you're smart, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to solve problems in this crazy dynamic environment. And that was very compelling for me. So I knew very soon that I was going to spend my 20s and probably my 30s in this world as well. Joined a company, then I quit to found my own company. It was a really bad idea at the startup, but I think like you say that in entrepreneurship, you have to learn through failing, and I think I learned so much. I also taught myself how to code when the startup was failing, and then that's kind of how I met Jörg and Jan, who are the other two co-founders of Bitwala. So I was a programmer at the time, and I saw an advertisement on Facebook, and they were like, "Hey, we need like someone to help us build this website. It's like for this Bitcoin company," and I was like, "What the fuck is Bitcoin?" This is back in 2013. I like went on the Wikipedia page, and I remember like reading through the Wikipedia page of Bitcoin, and I was like, yeah, I totally understand this. I mean, I didn't understand anything, but like I kind of had that feeling. And I went in, got on really, really well with the guys, and then the whole journey started. And back then it was just such a crazy different world. I think the price of Bitcoin was about 60 euros.
Did you buy a lot? Is that something?
I mean, I actually didn't buy so much, but I was lucky enough to get my freelancing salary in Bitcoin. Nice. So the guys paid me in Bitcoin for the first time, and I remember them saying like, I don't want to be paid in this strange money, you know, like I want to be paid in euros. But luckily they managed to convince me. And like that was it was just like it was the scene was so small, you know. It was kind of like room 77 and maybe like a couple of meetups. The space was so tiny that everyone knew everyone. In fact, like we actually got some business advice from Roger Ver at a conference in Amsterdam a while ago. Vitalik crashed on one of my co-founders' couches. So it was just so small. And it's just crazy seeing how it's exploded over the years.
Oh, very nice. I mean, Room 77, I think they were one of the first in the world to accept the Bitcoin for stuff, right? For I don't know, what do they say, food and drinks and stuff, right? It's a bar, right? And those times were different. Back in the days, people liked to spend their crypto, right?
I mean, yeah, I think people like to spend it, but they like to spend it because of their belief in like what crypto was and should be. But I mean, most people were accumulating it, right? If someone was spending like 20 euros with Bitcoin, they were probably buying, 10 times that much the next day.
Yeah, true. But that's really one thing I dislike. I don't dislike it about the space, but it changed in 2016. I got into crypto in 2016, and it felt like we're all a family. It's us against them, really. That's how it felt. And during the run up to in 2017, with all the ICOs and the huge price explosions, something seemed to change. And obviously, sure, the network was very congested. Fees got extremely expensive, and because it was appreciating so quickly, so much, people didn't like to spend it. And I think it's really, I'd prefer to see people spending and replacing it, and that's really something that is missing. But the reality is, unfortunately, at the moment, that people like to speculate with it and don't spend it. And Bitwala, basically, crypto banking, crypto-friendly banking is something which, do you want to change it, or is that the mission of Bitwala really to make crypto spendable? Or do you also say, we just want to make it easy for people to invest and hold it? Because one of the greatest thing about Bitwala is that you own the private key, which is completely unique and different to all the other Coinbases and all the other companies who basically don't give you the private keys.
Yeah, so that was very important to us when we were going live with a new product. So I think, that if you look at the more mainstream companies like Coinbase, and they're doing custodianship, and with non-custodianship, there will always be UX challenges. I think you have like the Coinbase wallet, for example, which is non-custodial, except for from the main exchange. They actually purchase that company. I think they do a pretty good job with the UX. You have the keys automatically generated, and then you can kind of copy them and export them to a backup like relatively easily. If you've tried Argent, which is like the DeFi wallet, which is Ethereum only, then you have this multi-sig wallet where you can delegate guardians and that kind of thing. So I think like we are seeing progress in terms of the usability of non-custodial wallets, also with MPC, like Zengo wallets, for example. But it's still not at the level where we can drive mainstream adoption without people really understanding, okay, this is why it needs to be non-custodial. I think we also have the challenges of you have like the on-chain multi-sig versus the off-chain multi-sig, like MPC versus like on-chain multi-sig. And so aligning one crypto wallet to hold both Bitcoin and Ethereum and have the same setup for like a non-custodial secure wallet. So, secrets distributed across different parts. That is something that's really, really challenging and hasn't really been hacked so far. In terms of Bitwala and our mission, I mean, we see our role as being this bridge between these two worlds, right? So between euro and fiat, between blockchain and banking. We're very different from other companies who are just saying, hey, look, this is this amazing tech. This is what you could do with it. We're a little bit more pragmatical, and in that we've been having conversations with the BaFin, that's the German body for financial regulation, since years, kind of back and forth, informing them about blockchain and Bitcoin and all of that. And so we've always been pragmatic in saying that this is a massive upgrade to our existing system, but it's probably not going to replace it, right? In some countries like Argentina, Venezuela, there's strong arguments for saying, hey, let's please use DAI, let's use Bitcoin instead of our currency because we just can't control our government. But have you tried convincing someone on the street to exchange a dollar for DAI? Well, in Germany, they'd be like, okay, was ist DAI, was ist Dollar, also ich spreche Euro. But you know, like the value, like the value proposition of having a decentralized currency isn't clear to most people unless they have a real pain point. We're beginning
Do you think that that pain point will come? I mean, do you think that fiat is in the last in its last legs of its life?
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying fiat is in the last legs of its life, but look at what's happened in the last months, right? I think like, the Senate just approved another 1 trillion spending package in the last few days. I like the tweet from Eric Voorhees, which was, "Oh, printing money. Why didn't we think of that before?" You know, it's like, if it was so simple, then why didn't we just solve all the problems by just printing like loads of money? And it's been a really good time for Bitcoin in that people have begun to actually realize what the implication of this is, right? So you have governments just printing money arbitrarily, and then you have Bitcoin, which is this deflationary asset and has recently gone through a halving where the supply is decreasing. That is kind of what is propelling Bitcoin and its value proposition more into the mainstream. And then, of course, we get bullshit like this whole Twitter thing that happened a week ago, and then we take some steps back. So yeah, I would say like the mission of Bitwala is really to give people access to this new economic tools, these new forms of value, and we try and do that by being a regulated on and off ramp, and a way where you can access this new value in the easiest and most familiar way possible. And that's why we've chosen a bank account, because for Europeans, you know, the bank account is still like the typical financial touch point. That's what they use on a daily basis. It's not a credit card like in the US. And we find people who are perhaps scared of using an exchange. Well, everyone's using an online bank account, a mobile bank account, and so they're signing up with Bitwala. And although we're very grateful for the Room 27 community and everyone surrounding that, what I'm really happy about is that we see 3 times as many buy orders as sell orders in Bitwala. And for me, this shows that we're getting people into crypto for the first time. And I mean, as great as it is, the community we have now, I mean, it deserves to be bigger. If I would give one reason why, I would kind of reference the Austrian School of Economics, on which Bitcoin was philosophically founded to a certain degree. You know, if there was one shop in Germany that was selling bread, we would instantly say that's a bad thing, that's monopoly. But with Euro, we're completely happy to say, okay, no, it's fine that we only have one body who's allowed to do the currency, right? And we can't really substitute away from that.
What was the book called from the guy who envisioned a multi-currency, like a private currency, currencies challenging government currencies? I forgot the name of the book, but there was one interesting book about that topic, basically saying it's a really bad idea to give the government control of the money. We should have competing currencies, so we will have a competition creates better systems. That's basically what he said. And we are coming into this world now where we have alternatives like Bitcoin, right?
I can't remember the name of the book, but I'm pretty sure it was by Hayek.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Maybe I'll find it. But it's that's I mean, we're still very early. Although I mean, you've been in the space for quite a while. I mean, I think you can be called an OG, right? The Bitcoin OG, and especially receiving a salary in Bitcoin in 2013 or whenever it was. It's just like, I mean, you couldn't buy that much stuff with it, right? And yeah, crazy.
It's really crazy being here for so long and seeing how crypto has changed. And just to give you an example, we did fundamentally believe back then that Bitcoin was going to replace the banks and was going to replace Visa and MasterCard. And I think we had this almost Marxist determinism, you know, that this is like this inevitability and it's just a matter of time. And then you have these apologists who are saying, oh, it hasn't happened yet because of X. It's funny you mentioned that the spendability of Bitcoin, because that's actually how we really came into business. We were talking to people and everyone was like, this is a better currency, but you can't spend it. And so one of the first projects we launched was a shopping site where you could send us any link, like eBay, Amazon, send us a Bitcoin, and we would buy it on your behalf. Like initially we tried to make it smart. We tried to like automate it. So, you know, we have like a little bot that would go to Amazon and like choose it and stuff. But there were so many different t-shirt sizes and that kind of thing. And Amazon doesn't have an API. So you're basically crawling for data. It was a complete nightmare. And so we ended up just doing it manually. And the project ran for, I think, 5 years and took in, quite some turnover. Big learning for me, you don't need to be a tech genius to have a startup company. You know, we were able to get up and running with something completely bootstrapped for the first years.
Yeah. So I found the book. It's called The Denationalization of Money.
Denationalization of Money.
It's very interesting. I mean, that's I think this is the world we're getting into. I mean, crypto is here to stay, and fiat, I mean, you said it's just being printed whenever they want and they choose. And of course, printing money is going to solve all the problems, which is, I mean, clearly not true if you look into history. And there are some other topics as well, like the digital currencies of states. If you look at China, they are pretty far ahead, and we had the Libra basically furthering the discussion. Once Libra came up, every state was basically afraid, kind of, really, you know, and talking about, you can't do that. And Libra had lots of partners, and they got out, and this really pushed the agenda. What do you think about a digital state currency? Is it coming? Is it coming soon? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I think it's a very interesting thing, right? Because if you look at cryptocurrency, you tend to combine kind of blockchain and cryptocurrency in this very inseparable way, and that's how it was for the first years, right? No one thought about blockchain; they just thought about Bitcoin. But then it kind of became, you know, more fashionable to talk about blockchain to a certain point, and it was like, okay, the technology is a really powerful thing. Bitcoin is just kind of like a scammy go-to-market, and then it's like blockchain that's going to change the world. And so I think when you look at the kind of assets that we have now, you need to separate out whether the value is native on-chain, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, or whether it's going to be, you know, pegged to something real world or like a synthetic asset. You know, I think central bank digital currencies like will be something great, to be honest, because if you look at just how broken the financial system is at the moment, like you have like the I think it's like 1.7 billion unbanked remittances. You know, like, can you imagine like your kids growing up in a world where bank transfers like aren't just instant, right? Like you have like
crazy, right?
Message, and WhatsApp is instant, and you can, and it's free, and it is global, and you have bank transfers, and suddenly it's like your money goes into the ether, and then it's like just arrives. And if we look at the banking system as a whole, it's basically just a reconciliation machine, right? Like you're sending a message to your bank, and then that bank is kind of sending money to another bank, and then that's basically sending a message to Bundesbank, the German bank, and then that's going out to the ECB. And it's like you have this crazy antiquated system that's sending like text files, basically CSVs to each other, and it's all syncing on a daily basis. And kind of that's actually why you can predict to a certain extent at what time your bank transfer is going to arrive, because of like, you can imagine these like giant cogs turning together. So the financial system deserves a massive upgrade. And I think digital bank central currencies can begin to provide that. You know, it's also kind of what the governments want to a certain extent, because like, it becomes like a lot more traceable, right? Like if you can like you can very easily audit a company if you know which are the cryptocurrency addresses through which it receives revenues, for example. I'm not saying that's great for privacy, but it actually could be a win-win. I think what we're seeing to a certain extent is a country is accelerating their efforts through fear, through FOMO. Just like we see in AI, the West doesn't want to be left behind by China, by Russia potentially, and so they know that if they don't have a progressive stance towards blockchain and digital currencies, then effectively they you know, in a few years' time they're just going to be screwed, frankly. In terms of when, I just saw a report from some German blockchain experts, as they call themselves, our CFO amongst them, and I think the average estimate was was like around like 2023 that the ECB would announce a digital currency. But you know, these are people who are relatively bullish in the space. So yeah, it would be a fantastic financial upgrade. It would solve problems like banking, remittance. And then, I mean, I think the second thing that we need is competition in the currency market, as we just discussed, right? And that will be much, much easier if we're running on a digital euro, right?
Sure.
If you go to a Shpeti and you say, "Yo, can you please accept Bitcoin?" I've done it a bunch of times, but pretty much every time we drink a beer, I say, "Hey, go accept Bitcoin." They're going to say like, "No, okay, I have to like download a new app. Like, oh, my tax, my Steuerberater is going to have like a nightmare about this." But if they're already accepting a digital euro, right? They have this infrastructure, they have this rails, they have these accounting tools potentially, and so I think. Driving adoption with fiat currencies is actually a way of driving adoption with cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of fiat currencies, and I personally don't believe that the euro is going to last so much longer. You know, if you look at this experiment, this euro experiment, and have countries like Portugal or Greece, who are completely different economically from Germany and like an economy, and I don't think it's going to work out. I mean, it's going to be crazy. And the question really is now, the world is becoming smaller. Everything is going global. Can we? Is a global currency like Bitcoin? Isn't that the future? Is maybe that's really the question. You know, how could a good financial system in the future look like? Some people are already talking about a gold standard again, maybe a digital gold standard, but that requires trust again. You have to trust someone to hold it and whatever. So I don't know if it's really a possibility. In the beginning, I thought Bitcoin could become the world reserve currency, basically like the gold standard. And on top of Bitcoin, the national states could basically create their own digital currencies backed by Bitcoin in a way. I mean, Max Kaiser believes something like that. You know, he also said God created Bitcoin because I don't know if you have seen that, because God created man, so God created Bitcoin as well. You know, he has a very interesting view about that. But do you think Bitcoin could become a world reserve currency, or do you think the states would never accept something like that? Is it even in the power of the states in the future to decide something like that?
I mean, I would say that fundamentally I would say it depends. I'm going to be political here. You know, if everyone in the world was like, "Hey, we're going to start using Bitcoin and stop using the dollar," then like there's nothing the US can do, right? Like what they would do is try and stockpile Bitcoin to try and have some kind of, you know, reserves to keep them through the next phase. But to have the global reserve currency is a massive kind of political piece of power that you have, right? Like after World War II, it went from the pound sterling to the dollar, and we've seen like how that has accelerated America's rise to power. I don't think it's going to move away from the dollar anytime soon, but people are talking about the yuan, and ultimately it's the currency that other foreign countries are happy to keep their reserves in, right? And this is based on the stability of the country, whether it's defaulted before, the monetary policy, and just because Bitcoin would make a better reserve currency, which I actually believe, it doesn't mean that it can happen, like necessarily. So to give you kind of a microcosmic example, I used to live in Ghana, and like finance is just completely fucked in most of Africa. There's a lot of people who are unbanked, and they're using these SMS-based payment systems. So you
M-Pesa, what was it called, right?
Yeah, so M-Pesa is the biggest one. It's got a monopoly in Kenya, for example, but in West Africa and Ghana, where I was based, there was a number of different players competing, and these are all from like the big telecom providers, right? And like I was just thinking, like, you guys should use Bitcoin. Like back then, the fees were low enough where you could use it. You could pay like $50 with Bitcoin or whatever. But everywhere I would go, I would see like crazy advertisements saying use this. I would see like, hey, top up 20 and get an extra 20. And like these guys had like billion-dollar budgets saying use our currency. And so even if Bitcoin is fundamentally better, it didn't have this marketing budget to get this network effect, which is so important for a new currency, right? And so
sure, but isn't that because Bitcoin lacks the incentive? I mean, what's my incentive really to promote Bitcoin in that same category as a company promoting their phone service, their top-ups. They make money from it. If you promote Bitcoin, I mean, you maybe make some fees or whatever, but isn't that, I mean, it's really limited by the amount you can earn in that sense. So Bitcoin has a disadvantage in that case.
Yeah,
because there's nothing you can do really then. Huh?
I mean, that was a sad realization for me. I knew that if we reached an equilibrium where everyone was using Bitcoin, it would be far better for the people. But to get there, there needs to be some kind of crazy thing happening. And like the US doesn't want to lose having the dollar as the reserve currency. Every other country would like it. And so, there needs to be something kind of a fundamental, like a seismic shift. And if we look at if we look at how it happened recently, we've printed out so much money, but like I don't think people have cared enough, frankly. I think there's like a global apathy in the world to a certain extent.
Oh, right, there you are. Just a short glitch.
Like I always kind of compare it to the Facebook data leak, yeah. when Facebook just basically revealed that, like, hey, all of your data is everyone's data, like, yay. People didn't stop using Facebook. There was like a delete Facebook campaign, but it didn't really last, and like Facebook stock dipped a little bit, went back up again. Like, I'm concerned that people don't care enough about like these big things that are happening. And even though we have, a relatively open press, and there's people like you who are telling them and giving them this new angle, it's like, what is going to be the impetus to make this change happen?
A big worldwide crisis.
Well, I mean, yes, because like we see that in Argentina, we see that in Argentina and Venezuela, right? We see there that like the people are willing to overcome the friction involved around getting into cryptocurrency because the pain points are so high. And like that's something that we do at Bitwala. We educate people. Hey, this is like why you should buy Bitcoin. Like, this is like a hedge against inflation, and it's like a digital gold. But it's a long road ahead. And for most people in the street, they say, well, Euro works. I can buy my coffee. I can go to the supermarket. So like for me, it's like we need to find this impetus, this this fundamental driving force that can really impact change. And I'm worried that the population as a whole is too apathetic to these big things to really react to what we have at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it will take a while. I mean, if you look at how credit cards developed, nobody wanted to use credit cards when they came out. I mean, they didn't trust them. So this thing has been around for 10 years. If you look at the internet in its first 10 years, I mean, who was using it? Some IT guys at the universities and the military and stuff. And I think we're still very, very early, and there's still many, many developments ahead of us. So everyone who's going to look at crypto, I hope in the future, is going to say, guys, you were so lucky to be in that early, right? Yeah. Because I mean, the world is changing at such a rapid rate. I mean, especially in the last couple months, it was just crazy how everything changed, really, because of this crisis. And the need actually for digital currency, I mean, it's obvious, we can have a video live call wherever we are. We can call China, any country, but we can't send money instantly through our banks. Come on, right? And I don't know why it's being kept that way. It obviously has something to do with politics and with power and being able to sanction countries. If you look at the US, I mean, they dictate what's happening in the financial world, more or less. And they say, if they don't want any country to receive any funds or remittances or whatever, they say you can't send money to country X, Y, or Z. And yeah, that's going to change, and that's why Max Kaiser says at some stage, countries are going to start mining Bitcoin because they see the potential of this to basically just use a currency you can't stop. And I don't know if that's really going to happen. It could happen, but maybe this could also lead to some other consequences, when countries start mining Bitcoin.
I think the only country that's stockpiling Bitcoin right now is like North Korea through its hacking and the US through its confiscations, right? I think the average person will look at Bitcoin as they look at gold. It's a hedge against the system, and it's much easier one to use. And I think it could be the same for countries as well. With more economic instability, then countries buy up gold, and the same thing will happen in the future.
Same with Venezuela, right? They had their gold reserves in England, and they wanted to get them back, and they said, "Sorry."
I mean, that is how the gold peg was originally broken, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we got some questions in the chat. Maybe we go through some questions. Let me see. Someone, Jana Eilas, she's asking, will there be an instant swap from crypto to euro integrated in the future? Instant swap? It's not really possible, is it?
We currently offer a non-custodial wallet, and that means you're the only person with access to your keys. And that also means that when you sell Bitcoin or Ethereum, there needs to be an on-chain transaction. And so our lower limit is the number of confirmations that we want to take in order to know that transaction is secure. And what we're moving to hopefully in the next months is a hybrid system where we have a non-custodial and a custodial setup inside of Bitwala. So for a lot of people, the non-custodial wallet is going to be the only wallet that they use. And that's great. Like these are the kind of customers that we want and that have got us to the position we are now. But we have a number of customers who don't want to manage their own private keys. And so in the future, we're going to offer dual options. When we have a custodial wallet, then we are able to move funds on your behalf. And one of the use cases would be faster trading. And also our most requested feature is currently a crypto card, where you can pay with crypto at point of sale. And so that would be kind of the direction that we're going in.
So basically, you don't have to convert your crypto to euros before spending.
Exactly. So right now we offer a typical settlement time of about 20 minutes, which is pretty awesome. Like if you have crypto on an exchange, you need to trade it to euro and then send it to your bank account and you can finally spend it. With Bitwala, it's around 20 minutes. Yeah, I think there's interesting applications with the Lightning Network coming up in the future, where you can sort of maintain a non-custodial approach and have a much faster settlement time. And we're looking into that, but right now we consider it too early for production use.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, it always takes time. Well, I mean, if it's a requested feature, I mean, I guess non-custodial for the crypto people is the way to go. But for the average person out there having a bank account, they're not used to this, right? If you lose your private key, you lose your money, and that's not something people are used to. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why Coinbase is so big, because they make it really easy. And if you have both options, it's just going to broaden your market and bring more customers into the whole space. Because if people have a choice, it's always better, right?
Yeah, we actually see it as being part of our duty and our mission to educate people about the values of holding your own keys. So we see people starting off with a custodial wallet, and then once there's a certain value in it, we would prompt them and say, hey, have you considered storing some of your Bitcoin in your non-custodial wallet? And like we see, this is being actually the gateway to get more people to non-custodialship. And it's, also it's kind of an enabler for new features for us.
There's another question. When Ethereum trading in the desktop version? It's only possible on your phone, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry that we don't have this yet. So we used a different wallet setup for Ethereum and Bitcoin. So when we launched, we were only on web. And in order to have a non-custodial wallet on web, we felt like we had to go for a multi-sig solution. So you basically don't have kind of the entire secrets required all in one place, because it's just, the browser is not a safe place. All of your Chrome extensions have access to your console, etc. And so with Ethereum, what we did, we didn't use a multi-sig wallet because multi-sig in Ethereum is a little bit messed up. You need to kind of start paying a lot of gas fees, and it just gets very confusing. So with Ethereum, we have a key pair where the private key is stored in the secure enclave on your phone. And what we're building now is kind of like what you have in your bank account. So if you imagine, PSD2, this is this new payment service directive from the EU. You need to, you can initiate a bank account on web, and then you would get a push notification on your N26, and you would log in and you would confirm it. Yeah. We will be doing the same for Ethereum. You actually will only ever be sending on your mobile, because that's just where the private key is. But this is kind of going to be the flow. And in terms of when, that'll definitely be out before the end of the year. And yeah, sorry that we don't have it at the moment. I would love it if we did.
Is Bitwala planning to offer other currencies like the dollar or some other currencies and also other cryptos?
Currently on our roadmap, the direction that we're looking more into is into decentralized finance.
Big topic, right? I mean, it's the buzzword of the day, right?
Yeah, I got an email. I was like, we have to do this. No, decentralized finance is like something that we see as being extremely pertinent to Bitwala. If you look at what's happened in cryptocurrency or blockchain since it started, it was pretty much creating assets, right? Bitcoin was the first asset, and then it was the Ethereums and the master coins, and then the ICOs, etc. And now we're seeing more use cases than just buying something and holding it. We're seeing the ability to borrow and to lend, for example. These are the biggest cases in DeFi, and we think that's another great way of escaping the trappings of traditional finance, right? Like, it's completely normal that you get 0% on your bank balance now. Whereas if you had told me that 10 years ago, it would have been like, what? No, I'm going to change bank. But now we've just all silently accepted it, right? And inside of the DeFi lending market, you can get much higher rates. I don't think they're going to be as crazy high forever. This yield farming thing is a phase. But what we need to do is democratize this and to say, hey, you average person who doesn't have a background in computer science and hasn't been in the crypto market for the last 5 years, you can still try out these new things if you want to. And so we see ourselves fundamentally as kind of reducing the friction between the customer and decentralized finance value propositions. And that is the direction we're going, rather than just adding in more cryptocurrencies. If you look at the space, there's the Bitpandas, there's the Coinbases, and they have lots of currencies, and they're doing that pretty well. So we see our role as being a bank and to add financial services which have been made possible around this new technology.
So what do you think about banks in general? I mean, if you look to the US, they just got the green light to become crypto custodians. Do you think something like that? I mean, didn't they have a law for the German banks as well that they can apply for a BaFin license and do the same thing? Do you think this is competition? Do you think it's good for the space if banks get involved? Maybe they do fractional reserve Bitcoins. You deposit your Bitcoins at the bank, and they have 10 Bitcoins, and they lend out 100, and they create the same system we have now. Do you think it's good or bad? What's happening with the banking and crypto?
Man, I would say like I may be a
little bit biased.
No, I believe that in the future we can have banking without banks, right? I think that banks can be replaced by a set of smart contracts running on open blockchain protocols, and we can enjoy all the benefits of banking without actually having these fundamental institutions. If we look at the rate of innovation in banks over the last 30 years, there hasn't been so much that has changed. And if we look at fintech, which is supposed to be the innovative, the fast-moving side of things, we also haven't seen a tremendous amount of change. You have the N26s, for example, which are building a nice interface to this old banking system. I'm really glad they did, because I much prefer using N26 to Sparkasse, but it's very much disrupting the distribution of financial services rather than the financial services itself. Then I call like the layer 2 of fintech. So you have like the Venmo, which is solving bank-to-bank transfers in the States. You have TransferWise. TransferWise can only exist because Swift is so fundamentally broken, So we have these fintechs who are kind of building on banking and like making it a little bit better, but it's really not good enough, and we don't want to start relying on just private third-party companies for something as fundamental as money transfer, like that should not be privatized in a centralized organization. The only way that we can change it is using a blockchain-based approach, right? Like, blockchain is completely different from banking. It's decentralized, it's grassroots, it's open source. It didn't think about geographies or laws. Whenever you do something new in banking, you basically have to talk to lawyers first, whereas Satoshi started coding first and came out with this completely different, this different approach. So I think that the role of banks is going to dramatically change over the next years. I think there's going to be like a messy middle phase where we're transitioning from this old world to a new world. And that's actually where we see ourselves, facilitating this transition from the system we have today to the blockchain-based system we have in the future. And I mean, I think it's good that banks are getting involved with cryptocurrency to a certain extent, because I think it's just bringing more awareness and more usage. You know, there's rumors PayPal is going to start selling Bitcoin. The recent law in the US has made it easier for banks to store cryptocurrency, although I don't think many of them will. And then what we have in Germany now is a relatively clear regulatory framework. So the laws that you were referring to, now you can apply for a custodian license, and it's regulated in the way that you can hold cryptocurrency. And this actually is a path towards making custodianship safer, which I think can only be a good thing. It'd be great if everyone goes non-custodial, but I think, yeah, as we described from the usability perspective, we're going to have a lot of people buying and holding their cryptocurrency in custodial ways, and it's good.
It's a little bit funny, right? I mean, if you look at the history of crypto, and there's one word which comes to mind is permissionless. And now everything is permissioned. You have to beg for permission from BaFin, from this regulator, from this government. And how do you see it? I mean, sure, I mean, you're a German-based company. You have to have regulation in a way to protect customers and all that kind of stuff. But what's your personal take on regulation for the crypto space? Do you think it's hindering innovation, even if you look at the Bit license in New York, which is basically a huge hurdle, stuff like that, or is it helping?
You know, it's a very difficult question to answer in a black and white way, but I would give you one example that really makes me very upset. So did you use Bottle Pay on Twitter?
Never used it.
And so Bottle Pay was a London-based company which just created a Twitter bot, sorry, a Twitter service where you could send Satoshis via the Lightning Network to just anyone via a Twitter handle. So you would just say like at Bottle Pay, please pay so and so this, and there would be like no setup, no KYC, and you were just sending like a few cents like back and forth between your friends, right? But the company, it went so well, it exploded because it was so easy and it was such an accessible way of getting people into crypto. All you'd have to do is see a Twitter thread and you see someone using this, and then like, okay, I can do that. And that company had to shut down because of the EU crypto custodian law. You know, they need to apply for some kind of massive license. In reality, they were just holding like a few dollars for people or proxies via social media accounts, and you know, the amounts were negligible. The idea of this being used for like money laundering, for example, or even if everything had been completely lost, you know, it would have only been like a few $1,000s or whatever. So that was an example of a very innovative, very cool product that was just completely shut down by this law.
But it's same with the crypto ATMs in Germany. You see,
yeah.
The BaFin basically regulated this space to death. If you look all around Germany, it's blooming and growing. I mean, there's one guy, Shitcoins Club, who's basically saying, two middle fingers to the BaFin, I guess, right? Which is a little crazy because he just keeps his things open, right? As far as I know, although they should have been closed, I heard some of them are still running. And to be honest, I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty ballsy to do that, right? So that's kind of regulation, which we'll see what happens there, right?
Yeah, you know, I think there needs to be a degree of regulation to actually help cryptocurrency grow into something that can be enjoyed by more mainstream customers. But I think if you overregulate it, then it just won't work, right? I think cryptocurrency is like the internet. You know, it's just a technology, it's a tool. It can be used for both good and bad, and we need to have nuanced regulators that aren't afraid to innovate, to allow innovation to happen. The only good, or one of the good things about regulation is certainty. For example, like in some countries, they keep the regulation deliberately uncertain. So you can start out doing something, and then suddenly there can be an interpretation, which means you can't do it anymore, right? Like we heard in China, oh, Bitcoin is banned, Bitcoin is not banned, Bitcoin is banned, Bitcoin is not banned. At least like the Merkel administration is giving clear guidance on what we can and what we can't do. And so there's no risk of us as a business, for example, you know, we need to attract capital to grow our company, and we need to fundraise. That is one kind of uncertainty that we can take out.
Sure. I mean, if you look at the reality of it, I don't know if Germany is that crypto friendly. Sure, there are some certain laws which make it crypto friendly, but all those companies operating basically unregulated, like Binance in many cases, or Bitfinex, and they're huge, or BitMEX even, they're massive. Do you think that's coming to an end sooner or later? Or do you think they just will be always regulating, always living in a gray area, really?
I don't think it's coming to an end anytime soon. I met CZ in an airport shuttle bus in Frankfurt.
Who did you meet?
The CEO of Binance.
Okay. Zizi. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, Zizi. And sorry, I'm speaking with the English letters. And I was like, oh, like that's really cool. And then I was asking him how regulation is like, how many legal entities do you have? And he has like over 100. And I'm just like, you know, we just have one GmbH in Berlin. And I think they have they've built their success on regulatory arbitrage, right? Moving from country to country, and in a way, I kind of envy them, because we started off in Germany, and we always said this is going to be such a big fundamental change to the world. We want to have really secure regulatory and legal foundations. So we're going to choose Germany. We can do everything properly. But if we had gone to a country with more lax regulation, like even the UK, for example, Estonia, Malta, we perhaps could have grown faster and bypassed this German KYC requirements, and then kind of moved in a more regulated way afterwards. Sure. What is interesting now is like Binance's approach to regulation. Like they are going more into the fiat on and off ramps. I think they announced a fund in Germany last week. So they are basically kind of taking steps towards having regulated islands. But the truth is, you can never leave your past behind, right? Like but BaFin is always going to look at your shareholders and where they came from and how you made your money. So it's not the case.
How can you trust BaFin, really? I mean, these are some guys, maybe they don't know that much about technology. And then there was Wirecard, right? And it seems like they've made lots of mistakes. And to trust regulation of such an important thing into the body of a government, I'm not sure if that's really the right way to go. And in the end, really, I think this space is going to grow anyways, despite of regulation. Just as you said, it's going to be like jurisdiction shopping, right? They go where it's the best for them. And I think that's really the future, that at one stage, countries actually going to seek you as a company, say, hey, you can do whatever you want here, and with all those benefits you have. I've seen that in Dubai with some terms when it comes to crypto, and some other countries who offer you special terms. And I guess sooner or later, for countries not to get left behind, they will open up and basically find a level where it's more or less the same in every country, to make it friendly for everyone. Because in the end, really, crypto helps everyone. It gives everyone alternative, gives everyone the sovereignty over the money. So for the benefit of the people, it's really good. But benefit of the people is not always something the government wants, because they don't have control over it, right?
I mean, technically they should want it, because we have a democracy, and so we vote for them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The government wants our best, our money, right? They take everything, right? Your taxes.
Exactly how it's supposed to. I mean, I think actually blockchain will help us be able to move countries more easily, right? Like right now, if you have a legal entity here, and receive money over here, like I used to do that, and it's a hassle. But if everything is suddenly on blockchain rails, if we have smart contracts instead of limited companies, then you have this wonderfully standardized, composable, homogeneous world where everything can just fit together.
Just imagine government had to run on blockchain. Like, how many cases are there? We don't know where the money is. Who cares, right? Nobody goes to jail. The money's just gone. Billions and billions of dollars. And then the voting system, ID system. There are so many ideas which can be realized on blockchain. But do governments really want this accountability from people's point of view? I personally want privacy, but I want the government to be completely transparent, and I want to be able to track everything to see what's happening. So, but today, in the world we live in today, government just loses money, and you don't know what's happening, in many cases. So the question really is, do governments want this transparency for themselves, or they just want the Oh, there you are again.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah, the internet connection is a little unstable. Yeah, at my end, I think.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's the kind of irony of the whole cryptocurrency and blockchain relationship with governments, because, you know, it could turn into a dystopia, right? Like, I don't know if I like the People's Republic of China knowing absolutely every financial movement I make inside of the country. But that is probably what we're going to have in 10 years' time. I think it would be great for us in terms of accountability and transparency. Like this bullshit like postal fraud voting that the Republicans are accusing the Democrats of in the US, you know, like we shouldn't be having that conversation in 2020, exactly. Right? We should have a reliable form of in-person voting. Yeah, and also yeah, I think what we've seen is like a lot of kind of cool projects. It's the same with companies as with governments. You know, they have these blockchain advisors, and they do some like nice proof of concepts. But in terms of fundamental change, I don't think we're really seeing so much. I guess like if we had to guess, it would be some very progressive African countries, maybe like Rwanda or like the Estonia. You know, it's the first country in the world that has this like a CTO. Like these are the countries where we maybe expect some kind of meaningful change first. Yeah, just waiting, right?
Yeah, if you look at the free private cities initiative, I mean, there are some guys trying to build free private cities with which run on blockchain, like Liberland or some other things in the Caribbean. And Akon, he's going to build his own city in Africa, in Senegal, I believe, with his own Akon cryptocurrency, right? So there are lots of things being tried out, and I think it's a good way to just test what's working, and we will see. I mean, in my worldview, I think we're going to have pockets of different cryptocurrencies communities scattered all around the world. Like if you look at Australia, for example, there in Townsville, there's a huge Bitcoin Cash community. There are hundreds and hundreds of shops and businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash only. Then you go to Venezuela, Dash is really huge in Venezuela. And I believe that it's basically all the community in it, just who decides what currency do we like, what do we think is best for our community, and what do we agree on. And I personally think that that's just going to be the way it is. There's never going to be one global currency, but there's always going to be pockets of different currencies. And with a wallet, you exchange them instant, so you will never have a problem. But we're still very, very far away from that reality, right?
Yeah, I've been following the story of Liberland, and I definitely want to get a passport. And it just seems like a fantastic idea, you know, to have this little country in the middle of Europe, very, very friendly business environment, and everything is going to be in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name of
Vlad.
President?
Is it Vlad?
I've met him a couple of times, man. Yeah. I forgot the name. I know it's just somewhere behind. But I mean, it's great to see stuff like that. I mean, there's lots of pushback and lots of people who don't want to see that happen. But I mean, he's going to keep moving forward, and we're going to see what comes out of that, right? So more power to him. I hope he gets done what he wants to get done, right? And attracts more people to it.
I love how he founded Liberland. He was like, I went into politics. I became like a European member of parliament, and I was like, I'm going to change stuff. And then guess what? It didn't fucking work. And then he actually Googled unclaimed territory.
Yeah.
And then like found like a list on Wikipedia and was like, okay, we're going to go there. And I was like, that's genius. You know, you Google how to make a country pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice, right? Yeah, what's his name? I have to Google his name. Jedlicka. Jedlicka. Yes, that's his name. I mean, it's great. I wanted to go to Liberland. There were some cool parties, and but haven't done so. But I guess
sometimes the parties get attacked by like the Czech or Serbian Coast Guard.
Yeah,
which probably makes me even cooler, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, we've been talking for 1 hour already, man. Crazy. Time flies if it's interesting. And we haven't really spoken about one topic, which I've been looking at, the interest account from Bitwala, right? There were some people in the community, I saw some articles about that. Obviously, everyone knows if you give your coins to someone else's custody, it's always a risk, like crypto is a risk, right? But there are people, you offer the service where people earn interest on their Bitcoin, and you just send it to Celsius and they lend out the Bitcoin. And some people said like Celsius is not secure, there's no security fund, so if they get hacked or lose the money is gone. Well, what's the deal with the interest account, and what's really happening behind the scenes there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we asked our users what they wanted, and they came back, and actually I think it was around 60% of our users who held Bitcoin said that they would be interested in earning interest on it. And then we had a very, very long process of looking at all the players in the market. So I think we spoke to a half dozen players. This is something that's very much on the rise, earning interest on your cryptocurrency. And in the end, Celsius was the provider that we thought was the best fit. And we did a lot of DD in terms of how they manage the funds, how they lend out the funds. So the vast majority of the loans are over-collateralized. They lend to institutionals. And then this is a value proposition for the user. 60% of Bitcoins in the market are hodled, right? People hold them and then expect the value to go up. And so of those users, some want to deposit Bitcoin and to earn interest in it. Currently, you're earning around 4%. This is kind of cool because Bitcoin is already deflationary, and then you're kind of earning interest on it. So you're escaping inflation twice. Yeah, when you deposit Bitcoins, you're using the Bitwala platform. Everything is tightly integrated. You don't need to go to another website. You don't need to do any more KYC. And then you can access, you can withdraw the funds at any time. Interest is paid out on a weekly basis. Yeah, we think it's a great value proposition for people who hold cryptocurrency and want to get a little bit on top. Like you say, not your keys, not your coins. In terms of kind of true ownership, like the only true ownership of cryptocurrency you can have is when you hold the private keys. There's now evolving legal models, like actually that's part of the custodian rules we talked about earlier, to actually have the funds in the customer's name, which offers them some more protection, but of course you're not protected against confiscation from the government, etc. And so yeah, there is risk involved. I have some Bitcoin in the Celsius account inside of Bitwala. I don't have all of my Bitcoin, I think you need to understand that there is a risk involved. There's no such thing as a free lunch, but for some people, the 4% is worth it. Yeah, we really hope that we can build a strong partnership with Celsius over time. In terms of the whole lending, there's this spectrum, right, between like the more centralized providers and the more decentralized providers. I think in the long term, the decentralized providers will win out. This is because, I mean, it's just going to be more efficient. There's going to be more competition. There's going to be more interoperability. But of course, we know that with Bitcoin, this decentralized finance ecosystem doesn't really exist yet. One of the kind of the most beautiful thing, and maybe one of the limiting things about Bitcoin, is its simplicity, right? It wasn't designed like Ethereum to be this fuel of arbitrary smart contracts. It was designed to be a peer-to-peer transfer of value. And so with regards to decentralized finance, it will enable lending for Ethereum-based assets. But with Bitcoin, you're relatively stuck with the centralized providers. And we're very happy with our partnership with Celsius so far.
Okay, so I mean, if you look at the general crypto user, he doesn't want to give away his coins. I mean, it's not really true. I mean, there's lots of money held on exchanges and custodial wallets. So, I mean, that's not really true. But some say, okay, why would you give away your keys for a couple percent a year? And it's really insecure. And I personally think that the user who is attracted to that is the average bank user who doesn't earn any interest on his money, where the buying power of his money is depreciating every year, who may be looking at alternative assets and says, all right, if I go into this way of cryptocurrencies, I might as well earn 4% on that a year, or whatever the actual rate is. So I think it's completely a different target market with the interest account.
We actually see an interesting range of usage. We often see people making a small deposit, first of all, just to test if it works, and then they'll follow up with a larger deposit. And we also see some relative whales on our platform. So we do have some crypto OGs who are using it. But yeah, it's a very, the non-custodial inclination that crypto OGs have and people who've been in the community for a long time. It's interesting to see how this compares to how Bitcoin is going to make it into the mainstream, right? And as I said earlier, we actually see a custodial wallet being a way to get people into non-custodial wallets as kind of a gap, like a bridge, right? There's slightly less friction, and that would be something that would make me really happy if we can educate people around custodianship in the future.
So they just use something they are used to from the old banking system, like with the banks holding the funds, and they get educated and they say, all right, okay, yep. I can be self-sovereign with this cryptocurrency. I might as well put something into my own wallet and keep it yep. there or whatever, save it. And basically Bitcoin is good for saving. I mean, it helps people save and not spend that much. I mean, you want to get rid of your euros and save in money that doesn't depreciate like gold or crypto, right?
In that case, you can get your salary in your Bitwala account, and then you can trade it as soon as it arrives.
Exactly. So that some people were asking about automatic transfers from that. Is that a possibility?
I spoke before about how the custodian wallet would enable the ability to automatically sell. So, point of sale, card usage, you'll be able to cash out your Bitcoin. We are working on a solution that would allow us to do automatic buys as well. So currently you need to authorize a transaction when you make it, but we're working together with a partner bank to figure out a way that we can automatically move funds from the customer's account to our account. This will allow things like more advanced order types, so buy at a certain price, and savings plans, so buy automatically each month, which we think is a great way of getting more people into cryptocurrency. There was a quote from an investor I was speaking to last week, and I think he said, like, he was explaining how he got into Bitcoin, and he said, I came for the Lambos and I stayed for the decentralized revolution. Which I love, because it's like people often come because they hear about this press and the prices going up, and then like that is the best way of learning about crypto. That's what I say to my friends and family, like, hey, here, take 10 euros in Bitcoin and you will learn far faster than if you just Google it and read the news.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's you have to use it yourself, you have to experience it yourself to really understand it. And we have lots of room to grow. It's just a tiny minority of people using Bitcoin. I guess you guys, you don't mind having a couple million customers in the future. So there's, if you look at the growth numbers of companies like N26 and Revolut, who basically haven't done that much innovation, there's lots of room to grow. And I hope that we have more innovation, more companies, more players coming to the market, more competition, and just offering better solutions, easier solutions. And for crypto really to become mainstream, I think it has to become easy to use, easier and better to use than the existing system, which isn't that easy, because here in the West, our cards work, you just swipe and it's very easy. So I think the revolution might as well be in different countries where there really is a need for a currency like that. But we will see. We're still early. So I thank you very much, Ben, for coming onto the show. It has been a pleasure talking to you. The hour just went by like that, and it was really quick. And we had some questions in the chat, and I hope we can do that again, maybe sometime. I don't know, around the end of the year, to see how Bitwala made it through 2020. Because I personally think that we're going to see much more trouble coming our way with the economy, with the hundreds of thousands of customers not being able to fund their loans because of the crisis we have in the job market and the economy, really. And let's see what the rest of the year brings and how Bitwala comes through that stronger, better, bigger, who knows, But I guess you as a guest have the last minute, so I give you 1 minute or two if you want to say something to the audience, and then we can finish this up.
I don't know if I can follow that. It sounds like you just kind of predicted the future with the economy and make these grand theories and statements. I want to say just thank you so much for having me on. It's been a really nice and organic chat. And to anyone who's watching or listening, please check out Bitwala, try it out, and give us feedback. Can I point down?
Yeah, point out. I'm going to put a link in the description
below. Always wanted to say that. So yeah, Dennis, thank you so much for having me, and yeah, I hope we can chat in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Then say hi to the rest of the crew, and we're gonna stay in touch. And all I can say is thank you and talk to you soon.